Hey, record-loving friends, this is Brian from TokyoRecordstyle. You know about Record Store Day, and if you're in Japan, you know about Record Day, and if you're in my circle of friends, you know about TokyoRecordstyle Day. It's the day that I go record shopping with my pals. Now, it sounds a little self-serving. TokyoRecordstyle is my brand, my project, the photography project where I go around and photograph people on the streets of Tokyo who have just scored records. And it seems a little bit gratuitous to create a whole day dedicated to the project, but that's actually what it is. It's a day where I can go to the record store with my pals and photograph them for this photography project. Let me tell you how it started. I was in one of the coolest record shops in Tokyo, Flash Disc Ranch, run by the enigmatic Tsubaki-san in Shimokitazawa, who I've known for many years and who has been very kind to me and supported various projects that I've done in the past and who I hold close to my heart. Tsubaki-san, shout out. And he hosted our very first record store day. And he's got a handful of kids who are in and out of the shop. And he's got a lovely missus. And she knows me and I know her. And we often say hello. And I was in the shop one day by myself in the singles. And a cute couple came up the stairs and walked in. She said to him, "Okay, good luck." And he said to her, "All right, do your best." And they kind of said, "Iterashai, go off and I'll see you in a second. Itekimasu, I'll be back in a second." And they split up and they went in different directions and they both started crate digging. And there I was by myself digging in the singles and I thought, well, isn't that nice, you know? And I chuckled to myself and I thought, oh, what a cute couple. I wish I had, somebody to go record shopping with. So Tsubaki-san's wife overheard me laughing to myself and she looked over and said, "Kawaii desu ne," which means, aren't they cute? And I said to her, yeah, they're cute, but that's so cool that they're out shopping for records together. And that's when I thought of the idea of TokyoRecordstyle Day. I often call my friends and say, "Hey, I'm going to the record shop today. You want to come?" "I'm busy. I can't come. I've got something else going on." So I thought I would throw a dart at the calendar in the not so distant future, but with enough time for other people to plan and for us all to meet in a cool neighborhood together and to go record shopping together. Sometimes there's clusters of record shops and we could make a little day of it. Go from one shop to another and I could document it and share with you about Tokyo record loving culture. And so that's how TokyoRecordstyle Day was born. It was just a great excuse to get together with my friends and also photograph 5 or 6 or 10 people at a time to add to the photography project. So today I'm going to share with you stories from the very first TokyoRecordstyle Day. We're up to volume 8 right now, and I've got 9 queued up and possibly 10. But I'm going to read stories from the very first one. I've got my TokyoRecordstyle. This is half of what I've written so far. And for these stories, I've actually written like 2 Harry Potters worth of content. So without further ado, I am going to feature my dear old pal, Mijonju. Mijonju is a little bit of a YouTube sensation. He was the first guy who I knew who had, some 10, 20,000 followers. So, Mijonju. This is from January 29th, 2023, a little over a year ago. As the years have gone by, Mijonju has become one of my oldest pals in Tokyo. We've been bouncing around and crossing paths in this city for well over a decade, and probably soon a decade and a half. In a city that sheds its sometimes transient residents as frequently as it sheds its own skin, it's just nice to have some familiar faces, and Mijo is certainly that. He famously loves cameras like a fat boy who loves chocolate cake. The jingle from his legendary Mijonju show on YouTube, "I love cameras like a fat boy who loves chocolate cake." And for that reason, we've always been close buds. And he's also a talented musician and singer, as well as magician, artist, and has too many more talents to name. He's a hard one to keep up with creatively. The guy is a fountain of passionate energy, but I'm especially happy to be connected to him more and more through music as much as photography. I could go on and on about Mijonju, aka Mijo, aka Michi, aka Mitch, aka Michio, aka Michelle, aka Jonesy, but I'll simply leave it at this. When asked, "Hey Mijo, why do you love records when you can stream it all?" After a long, thoughtful pause, "Well, it's like when you're cold. Sure, you can go to the thermostat and simply turn on the heater, and soon you'll be warm. Or, you can gather wood in the forest, build a small pile, precariously balanced around some carefully collected kindling, miraculously make sparks, like some kind of magic wizardry, blow smoky kindling to red embering life, listen to the crackle and pop of the wood drying and charring, trapped water and sap within inside it hiss, slowly warming your face, your hands, then your body, then roaring at you like an inferno demon, heating your bones, feeding your soul like the god of fire that you are." Yeah, so streaming is the thermostat and records are the fire. Got it, Mijonju, perfectly. So that is my pal Mijonju, old friend with Ginger Root. He's pals with these guys who are a big deal. And so moving on, next up, I'll do it this way. Next up is my pal, who's become a really good pal over the years, Jason Garcia. He's a really talented designer and artist and recently photographer. And he also has a great YouTube channel that I'll link in the show notes. Shutter Advance, I'm not sure if the channel has evolved, but please do check him out. So this is the story of Jason Garcia. "There are two sports that, despite being a student of neither, command my respect more than any others: boxing and skateboarding. Both demand enduring enormous physical pain, psychological distress, and emotional failure. No athletes get knocked down harder than these two. Yet, in the instances when defeat can be overcome, when punches and landings are stuck square, it's never the adrenaline, the force, the strategy, or the athleticism that impresses me, but rather the dogged determination, the unwillingness to fail, even if outmatched, the mental fortitude of facing fear. There's a virtue, grace, and majesty to that captivates me, even though I never quite understand what I'm seeing. I think the comparison could be made similarly to two seemingly disparate genres of music, jazz and punk. When one could rightfully argue, depending on which side of the musical spectrum one might be, that the other genre is just a bunch of dissonant noise. However, in the essence of both is the purest kind of freedom that connects them in ways other genres aren't. One is colored with notes rejected by standard conventions, said to be blue, while the other is colored with attitudes that reject mainstream. And just before I go a word further to make an essay of this, let me just admit now that I know just barely enough about both of these genres to say something to get me in trouble. Just enough to take them apart, but not enough to put them back together. But I recognize that I am in awe of both. See the sophistication in both. Collect them both. Oblige myself to listen to them both for reasons I can never entirely explain. Despite my untrained ear, I can't stop listening. One person I know who could pontificate about them both in equal measure is Jason Garcia, who is equal parts power pop punk and hep cat jazzman. Jason's deep knowledge of both jazz and punk will knock you out like a boxer or a blue note, or mesmerize you like a kickflip or an oi 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 between DJ sets at an upcoming record spinning event we're planning for the not so distant future. See you there. That was related to another event I run called Top 5 Records, in which Jason was one of the guest DJs. So that's the story of Jason Garcia. Jason, thanks. Shout out for being on Tokyo Record Style and for meeting up in Tokyo with all the burritos. The Burrito Brothers. We are the Burrito Brothers. Okay, moving on. Next up is James Banbury. Little did I know when I met James Banbury that I was speaking to a renowned music arranger, writer, and musician. We met at an exhibition opening through mutual friends a couple of weeks back, and I found out that he had only recently moved to Tokyo after a decade plus in Hong Kong. Our mutual friend had mentioned he was a musician, and we talked about tons of music and shared interest in artists and rapped about club music and DJ days, beloved but now defunct record labels, and about how he was making a spontaneous trip back to Hong Kong for the release of a record of his that would coincide with what sounded like an amazing photo exhibition, with wild images from legendary UK raves of yore. I assumed at that point that he was a producer of electronic music, but maybe primarily movie soundtracks now. I couldn't quite put my finger on exactly what kind of musician he was. There would be nonchalant comments about such things as library records that would throw me off the scent mid-sentence. Later that evening, over some after-party mocktails, he mentioned in passing that he had recently installed a remotely controllable climate system in his home in order to care for a 250-year-old cello on particularly humid days. That was when my eyebrows raised again, and my mind wandered to that mysterious word Stradivarius, which I don't even know how I know, and thought to itself, better look this guy up when I get back home. Well, I did look James up when I got home and found a mile-long list of credits, accolades, awards, and, well, hits. Turns out James has been part of or has worked with many numerous bands that you know and love. Major names with hundreds of millions of listeners. I don't want to embarrass him, but I also read that he conducted the Hong Kong Philharmonic, the London Session Orchestra, and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Good grief, James. Needless to say, the guy knows music, and you easily see this by his smile. And this very eclectic slew of records that he scored with us for Tokyo Record Style Day Volume 1, Shimokitazawa. His own credit on some, I believe, that James is a very friendly and interesting cat. Thanks, James, for the nice photo, a great hang. Looking forward to the next record dig, more Tokyo Record Style on the way. James Banbury, look him up. Very interesting fellow. Very cool. Thanks, James. Okay, next up, Daniel. Hey, Daniel. Nice to see you. I met Daniel for the first time at Tokyo Record Style Day. A certain aura about him caught my attention. It could have been his bluish gradient tinted glasses or his hypnotizing patterns on his sweater or pants. It might also have been the statement kicks, the faux fur hooded mink that I admittedly wanted to touch, and even the fingerless gloves. But more likely than not, it was the polka-dotted mask, which would, ironically as it were, later reveal something about Daniel the more I got to know him. In the first record shop we hit, a mutual pal pointed out to Daniel a Strawberry Switchblade record. "Oh, I already have that one," he replied. Having never heard of Strawberry Switchblade, though an incredibly cool name, I thought, and Daniel seeming to be at least a decade, if not 2 or more younger than me, I thought they might be something newer that I had yet to encounter. Then, later on, at another shop, another mention of Strawberry Switchblade. Then another, with Daniel replying to each, if I didn't already have 3 copies of that one, and the like. I thought to myself, man, this guy must really like Strawberry Switchblade. Then, after a long afternoon of hanging before partying, I made his photo and he busted out a copy of one of their records. Their only LP, it turns out, and that's when I got a good glance of the 2 main musicians that make up the pop duo, Rose and Jill. And notice they were covered in polka dots. Okay, I'm connecting the dots, I thought. No pun intended. Later, I went home not only to give Daniel's band Dreamleans a good listen on Bandcamp, very cool, see the link in the comments, but also to give these Strawberry Switchblade girls a listen. What I immediately discovered was that I am about 30 years late to the party. They're icons. I later chatted up Daniel about all this, and he shared some great insights about how Strawberry Switchblade was originally a 4-piece band with 2 other girls on bass and drums, and how they were pushed to record an album with some rather chintzy new wave instrumentation, and how it was a disservice to the songwriting, undermining it a bit. However, Daniel said, it adds to the dichotomy that draws me to this band. Some of the lyrics are dark and painful, but wrapped in this candy-coated shell. Well, Daniel, you made a Strawberry Switchblade fan out of me. Thanks again. Keep being inspired, inspiring, and styly. More Tokyo Record Style on the way. So thanks, Daniel. That was really cool. This is a Strawberry Switchblade single that has, since yesterday, a big hit for them, and Sunday Morning, a cover of the Velvet Underground. Really great 12-inch single. And you can see, like, you want to know about Strawberry Switchblade if you don't already know about them. They're quite cool. I should have known about them. 30 years late to the party. Very big in Japan, apparently. Maybe bigger in Japan than anywhere else in the world, I was told. Man, I love this record cover. Polka dots. Okay, next up, Yusa, my pal Yusa, who's been featured on Tokyo Record Style a number of times. Hello, Yusa, from Indonesia. This is a great one. I just listened to Pato, the album pictured here, and I have to say, never have I better understood the smile of one of the people I have photographed with their recent record shop score. This album just melted my face right off my head. Dare I say that I probably looked a lot like the illustrated face on the cover here, as amazing, heavy guitar, wild changing chord progressions, and some outer space avant-garde free jazz interludes washed over me. What an absolutely killer album. Where has this been my whole life? Jeez, I'm a little speechless. And that's not a bad thing for this particular post about my photo homie and record homie, Yusa, who kindly participated in a couple of my photo volunteer efforts and now Tokyo Record Style Day. Because when I asked him to chat and to share a nugget or two about himself so I could write a short blip about him, he replied with a perfectly written essay about him, and rather than parse it apart into my own words, I think I'll let him do the heavy lifting on this one. So I owe you one, Yusa. Well, a couple, I guess. And especially for turning me on to that face-melting Pato album. And thanks for joining all the projects, for writing this up, and for introducing yourself, and for getting the memo about showing up styly with your sup bro Sub Pop sweater and your cool yellow Omban Dome disc union bag. Props. Looking forward to our next hang and more Yusa record recs. So now here's his introduction of himself. Hey Brian, my friends call me Yusa, born in Indonesia and raised in Illinois. I was with the Indonesian group at the Photo Hope and the Photo Ho 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 events. It was there I met Bemsha, and we talked about life in the States as expats. But more importantly, it was also at that event that I learned we had the same love for Ahmad Jamal, the jazz pianist, and both loved music and collected records. Great, 2 people coming together, that's great. And at that point in time, I was still an employee at the Ochanomizu Disc Union, and he'd mentioned going there just the day before. We missed each other by a day. What a coincidence. Since then, our conversations were not far from vintage cameras and record hoarding, LOL. I'm in my late 20s now, and although circumstances led me to Japan to hopefully make a band and be a musician, I ended up as an engineer. I believe my parents got me into music. We used to live in rural Illinois, and my access to any quality music was whatever they were listening to on the long drive to the nearest grocery store. We only had a couple of cassettes in the car, and they played the hell out of them. So as an elementary school kid, I was listening to a lot of Bob Marley, Billy Joel, B.B. King, Deep Purple, Phil Collins, etc. Thanks to them. When and why did I start collecting? I don't remember why, but I was drawn into vinyl. I was playing and listening to a lot of ska, the original ska that was closer to mento. Editor's note, I have no idea what mento is. Time to educate myself yet again. and not to the two-tone reincarnation, rocksteady and roots reggae. I remember being fascinated with the Jamaican vinyl record scene of the 60s and 70s and wanted to learn more about the rhythms and versions and dubs. So naturally, I started collecting from there. As my reggae collection grew larger, I started to collect other genres as well. For example, the LPs of the cassettes I used to hear as a kid. Now collecting records for me is like a curse. Editor's note, we all relate. It doesn't matter if I'm on vacation or a business trip, no matter how remote the place, if I found a record store and see a record I like, I buy it then and there. I always have thought, what if it's not there the next time I come? I think it's a sense of ownership and owning that piece of music. That's the reason I've collected vinyl. It's hard to explain, but there's a joy when a song is being played through the speakers or at a live performance, and I could say, oh hey, I have that. I mean, come on, you can't get that with streaming, right? It's no different than shooting with film. Time-consuming, inconvenient, just downright expensive. And to be honest, the end product is not really that great, but I still do it anyways. Laugh out loud. As we all do, Yusa. I totally can relate. So that's my dear pal Yusa from Indonesia. Thanks for being on Tokyo Record Style. Okay. We're keeping going here, moving along. Another one who kind of wrote the piece for me, I think. Shimizu-san. What's up? This is my pal Shimizu-san with a record, another record I didn't know. Okay, here we go. The artists that compel me the most are the ones themselves who are compelled to create. It's often the compulsion that is more interesting and admirable to me than whatever art they create. My favorite artist, John Baldessari, said that great art cannot be willed into creation. The artist must be possessed to make it all the time. I so badly wish that I was possessed to create, that I couldn't help but make art. A need to create like a need to breathe. Like my photographer friend, John Saipao, whose project Tokyo Camera Style inspired this one, seems to be possessed by photography. It's like second nature to him. It's his way of life. And the same for so many other artist friends that I'm fortunate to know. They create because they must. Conversely, and maybe contrary to an image I maybe project, it's not exactly a natural act to me, visual creating. I love it indeed, but it comes and goes like the wind blowing through open car road trip windows. Sometimes I catch it, and sometimes it just passes through. Having said all that, I recognize that I do feel a compulsion to write, to tell stories, to flex my literary noodle every day, to stare at a blank sheet of paper and see where a thought can take me. How should I start? What interludes will present themselves? Where will I end up? I do feel compelled to write. That's been one of the really fun aspects of Tokyo Record Style, which is, again, ironic for the second post in a row because my subject here, friend and fellow DJ Takeshi Shimizu, wrote a perfectly formed interview, templatizable to boot, replete with formatted questions and insightful answers, and simply too good to not post as is, robbing me from my own chance to write about him, to tell my own story about him. His damn initiative foiling my ability to tell a tale. Curse you, Shimizu, and your damn thoroughness and thoughtfulness. And well, compulsion. So I wrote that, and Shimizu-san wrote this. My name, Takeshi Shimizu. This artist, Karioka. Title, Snooze. Shop, Flash Disc Ranch. Why did you choose this record? I remember some Japanese music guides recommended this record, and it was a Brazilian music album by Japanese musicians. I like Brazilian music, so I bought it. I also like the album cover. How did you feel after listening to this record? This record is instrumental Brazilian fusion music, but I loved the nostalgic tastes as well as the technique. Unlike other instrumental bands, the flute plays the theme, and the sounds of the flute were impressive and nostalgic. I'm liking these, Shimizu-san. Your favorite songs on the record? He's asking his own questions here. The song Torpedo is my favorite. The arrangement is mixed with Brazilian fusion and electronic music and features Hideki Matsutake from YMO as the synthesizer programmer. Cool. Why records? It takes time and money to find good records, but I love the joy of digging my favorite records. Discovering something new from records is like meeting someone new. Records are attractive as physical objects, and their covers are very large. Nice answer. Your thoughts on the event? He's talking about Tokyo Records LA. It was a great pleasure to get to know other music lovers. I used to have a lot of music friends around me, but these days I don't have many opportunities to meet new music lovers. So this was a great opportunity. Recently, I saw a documentary film called Other Music. This is a film about an independent record store in New York City that was closing, and it made me feel strongly that it was sad to see my favorite record stores close. That's why it's important for us to visit our favorite record stores and buy records like at this event. We also enjoyed showing each other the records that we had bought. Your musical interests. I like funky music, like funk, jazz, and rock. I also like Latin, Brazilian, African, Japanese city pop, American roots music, Caribbean, and Jamaican music. Okay, thank you, Shimizu-san. That was awesome. Appreciate you writing that for me. I'm going to use this as the standard interview template for future interviews. Okay, last but not least, my very, very dear friend and fellow Top 5 Records co-host, just cohort in all creative music, photography things I do, Tatsuo Fukutomi, aka Bemsha, in the house. Great guy, Bemsha. Aficionado of music, lived in the States. I'm gonna do a full-length interview about Bemsha, and he scored a bunch of 7 inches this day. Yeah, you should know about Bemsha. Put him on your radar. Follow him on Instagram and expect a video interview about him coming soon. So let me preface this with the tidbit that Instagram only allows you 2,200 characters per post. And I asked Bemsha to also write something, which he did, and he wrote 2,100 characters, which left me only a little bit of space to write. So let me just mention that before I start in here. Here we go. Bemsha, aka Tatsuo Fukutomi, left me with less than 100 characters. So I'll just say, one love, Ja Rastafari. Here's my answers for your questions. Why do you love records when you can stream it all? I guess it's because vinyl records appeal not only to our sense of sound, but to 3 others as well. One of my favorite genres of music is ambient. It's supposed to be played at a volume so low that you can hear it only when you want to. It is the music that becomes part of the environment. As a matter of fact, ambient used to be called environmental music, like the air or light around you. Therefore, you want the sound to be clean and clear. And it would be ideal if you could play the music in a smooth, constant flow. Digital formats like MP3s, AAC, FLAC files, or streaming services would be the best way to play ambient music, since there won't be disturbing crackle and pop noises that you might hear on vinyl records. And so you don't have to go to the record player every half hour to flip the disc from side A to side B. So why do I still want vinyl albums of ambient music by Brian Eno, produced from 1975 to 1982, such as Discrete Music, and all 4 of the Ambient series albums on the EG record label? It's because I want to enjoy the artwork and read what's written on the cover in the size they were originally intended to be, and look at the label design and the grooves. I want to smell the fragrance of the vinyl when I remove the record from the sleeve. I want to hold and feel the weight of the disc and the texture of the cardboard cover. I want to check the softness when the needle comes into contact with the record. In other words, vinyl records stimulate your senses of sound, sight, smell, and touch. And I love how they do so. I mean, is there any other medium of art that excites our senses within a few moments like vinyl records? If there are records that taste like Tutti Frutti ice cream, Savoy truffle chocolate, and or a red hot chili pepper, then vinyl would be perfect. Bemsha. Nice one, dude. Yeah, okay. Who's making the edible records? That's the next thing in this new record resurgence. red hot chili pepper, cinnamon spicy hot records. Love it. So that is Tokyo Record Style Day. That is the day that I can pick on the calendar and go to a record store with my pals, and we can go crate digging, talk about music, and share our love for vinyl records together. And I can kill two birds with one stone by taking pictures of a handful of subjects for this project, which you should follow if you're not already on Instagram at tokyorecordstyle or on my website at tokyo.record.style. So how did you like this video? Did you have fun enjoying hearing about all these people? Was I just rambling on forever and ever like I tend to do? Did you like the writing? Leave me a comment down below and we can get some writing and conversation and dialogue going on in the comments. There's nothing I love more than communicating. So please leave a comment and let me know what you think. Do you write? Do you have little essays? Do you write stories? Leave me links to your things. I love to be inspired by other people's writing. So thanks for joining me on this Tokyo Record Style Day journey. This was 1 of 8, soon to be 9, hopefully 10 by the summer. I'm really excited to be celebrating our 10th edition of Tokyo Record Style. I'll feature more of the days in the coming weeks and months. And if you come to Tokyo, let me know, and maybe I'll try to align a Tokyo Record Style Day with your visit to Japan. Okay, I'll wrap it there and say thank you for joining me for another video. Appreciate you sticking here till the end. And until next time, I will see you at the record store. Bye.